What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Processed, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but the 76ers made a move. There's something to actually talk about when it comes to news with this team, and not only that, D-Ray, I actually have some bad news. I had no coffee this morning, and there's none in my house. I don't know how to operate. I can't function properly.
Man.
I need that jitter. I don't have it, and I don't know how to even do anything at this moment.
Man, if you'd have told me, we'd have definitely pushed this back. I'd have just please go on a Wawa run. I feel you. I definitely feel you on that one, man. I got my water here. I ain't got to the coffee yet, but I get it.
I'm looking for my
your pain.
jug as if I'm going to pretend that I still drink it and I still have it next to me. I can't even find it at this point, so no jug for me. I'll say this, though. I got Wawa coffee yesterday, and I'm okay with the Wawa coffee. I don't complain with any coffee. It was cold as hell. I went home. I had to nuke it in the microwave. Now, that just bothers me.
Oh, no. You like the I ain't going to lie. I like a cold coffee.
Oh,
I
don't mind iced coffee, but it's hot over ice. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. I give you that.
I love it. Yeah, the coffee purists of the world. You can do an iced coffee, but it's about those rich beans in that hot coffee that really gets everything going.
Coffee connoisseur.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll get into some hoops talk because there's a lot to get into today, and we'll start with this. The move they made, they signed Ryan Broekhoff, 6'6", big guy, and all he does, literally, all he does is stand there and shoot the basketball. I'll say this, 10 minutes per game, 4 points per game. I know that there's a lot of, I'd say, excitement because you see 40% three-point shooter, and the Sixers definitely need spacing. I don't expect him to do much at all when it comes to this team down the stretch in the postseason. And two, if he was that unbelievable, you wouldn't see the Dallas Mavericks get rid of him, a team who is competing. I know teams make mistakes sometimes and they get rid of certain players, but I just feel as if maybe there's way too much hype involved with this guy than there should be.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it goes. We get something as Philly fans, and it's like the beauty of it is we give people a chance, and we say, like, listen, it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. He's going to solve all our problems. He's JJ Redick, even better. But the reality is, like you said, the Mavericks, he was that good, they wouldn't let him go. You know, we was just watching the clips. You said that if he was really that solid of a shooter, he wouldn't be left open constantly, and he's kind of the last option. But from a mechanical standpoint, I love his shot. I see why on paper it looks good. At that height, how pure his shot looks like. If he does knock him down, if he does have that confidence, it could turn into something beautiful. You know what I mean? I ain't saying he's about to go out there and pull a John Paxson, but I'm saying, like, that's another 6 to 9 points a game right there.
Well, the one thing that I do think is interesting, or at least I'd say I understand why they went out and made the move. With the whole COVID-19, this person can be quarantined and this guy has to leave for 2 weeks and can't be near the team or can't play. Yeah. You got someone who can spread the floor. But with Dallas, I'd say they spread the floor way better than the Sixers do. So maybe he struggles here because, let's be real, everyone who comes to this city, it seems as if their numbers go down. So because of the spacing, if he's out on the floor with Ben and Joel, or Ben and Al Horford or something, and something's not right for him, he has less time to shoot the basketball than he's used to, he might not be a 40% shooter here.
I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right with guys' percentages going down. We had talked about that. I know we're getting into it later. We had talked about that with guys like Josh Richardson and guys like Tobias Harris, and I completely forgot about that. I don't know. Like, it's a safety net. Ain't nobody about to expect him to. It's like extra credit. Nobody expect him to go out there and just do everything. And anything he does north of that, we're smitten by it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he'll get some run during this 8-game stretch to get everybody kind of rolling when it comes to the postseason. You might see him out there, but here's a question. You talk about playoff ball. We went through this roster. We're having trouble trying to find out where Mike Scott, Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson III, Matisse Thybulle, where those players are going to be inserted into the lineup. Al Horford, possibly, even if he comes off the bench. Now you're telling me that this guy's going to get a lot of minutes. I would even say, let me ask you this. Would you rather have Furkan Korkmaz or or Broekhoff in the lineup in a playoff game? Because you know me, I'm not even a Furkan guy, and my answer's Furkan.
Furkan, for sure, just because he knows the system more. It's something to be said about guys playing together that long, knowing where the spots are. Like I said, if this guy turns into something great, then cool. But if he doesn't, the beauty of it is nobody's really expecting. I'm not going to say nothing. At the end of the day, you got signed, you got paid. But, like, no one's expecting for him to just reinvent the wheel or, like we said, turn into some type of JJ Redick caliber shooter. It's just that's a couple more points a game. But hell, I'm going with Furkan at the end of the day because he knows these guys. He knows the system.
Now, it was interesting, though, watching you watch the highlights and the clips of him shooting. Oh, that form! Oh, that form! Smooth! I didn't expect it. That's all.
His shots go straight up and straight in, man. You look at his highlights from Dallas, and some of them aren't even like they're just dropping straight in. They're barely touching the net on the way down. And that, for him to be 6'6" and have such a great form, I see why he keeps getting signed. Like he's a pure shooter, but that only gets you so far.
But then you should obviously see my clips.
Exactly. I'm about to say, clong.
Hey, I get that rebound though, asshole. What were you gonna say? Were you gonna chirp me? Is that what you were gonna do?
No, man. I just say it's the thing that nobody ever looks at. Okay, this guy can shoot. What does he look like on defense? You know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way. We're not playing football. You don't just get out there on one side of the field, one side of the court. Like, how does he look on defense? And I don't know, man. But at least they made a move, and to me, it's a pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a security blanket, and yeah, you talk about the defense. I'll tell you what, Furkan can't play much defense either, and that's going to be my big concern when everything starts to actually go down this playoff run. But look, they made a move. They had an extra two-way contract. He's not a two-way contract guy, but because of the rules with the quarantine, they're able to pick somebody up with less than 3 years of experience, or it was either less than 3 years or 3 years and less or whatever. But they're able to go out and snag him. And security blanket. If anything goes wrong, they have someone who can stretch the floor, and they definitely need shooting and need someone to stretch the floor. So you never know. I'm not all giddy as other people out there after looking at his numbers, because I think there's a lot more to it than just seeing, hey, 40% shooter, you know?
Yeah. And I will say this. Something that might help him tremendously. There's no crowd, so we don't really have to deal with the pressure of Philly fans yelling at him to shoot, or Philly fans yelling at him.
Trust me, I bet you he's shooting without us screaming.
That's what I'm saying. I think that he might perform pretty well, just because to him it's like, I'm in a scrimmage, I'm in a practice, I'm in a tryout right now. You know what I mean? So it's like he might have a free conscience. It could turn into something great, but if it doesn't, I don't think anybody's gonna, go home and flip a table if it doesn't.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Look at what we're talking about right now. But I will say, it's pretty damn funny that you're sitting here talking about NBA games. Imagine if I told you, you're getting ready for an NBA game and how important it would be to you, your mental preparation for the whole week, what dinner you're eating to make sure everything's right in your body, that water you're drinking 90 of those, and you're talking about how because of the scenario, that's kind of like a scrimmage, that's kind of like a tryout because of the atmosphere. We're talking about an NBA game. How important would that be to you? And to it's a scrimmage. That's crazy. No, I'm just saying because of the scenario where we like something so important as an NBA game is now almost like, with the atmosphere, it's almost like an AAU game, but it's still the same.
Yeah. I think I downplayed it a little bit because I want him to. You know what I mean? I don't want somebody to go in there like, oh my God, it's NBA game with the Sixers. I gotta like put everything on the line. It seems like guys, and this, guys perform the best when they're just kind of in that autopilot mode, and and it makes it easier to simulate that when there's nobody in the crowd. But yeah, it is an NBA game. It is something to be taken serious, but like I said, it's just downplay it just a little bit so he doesn't go in there and the first shot in the Sixers uniform is an air ball, man, because that would be hard to talk somebody back down from that ledge.
I'd find that hard to believe, though, that would happen with him because he is someone who literally only shoots threes. Yeah. You know me, the D is great, but imagine if all your job was to do, stand there, just stand there and shoot the damn basketball. Is there a better job than that? I would say yes because I love what I do out
I was
there.
about
But
to
still,
say.
I mean, think about that,
I
though.
was about
Just stand there and score the damn bucket.
Just all you got to do, just get ducats.
Oh,
I'm
Kyle
for
Korver made one hell of a career doing that.
Exactly. I think that's what everybody thinks. Like we see a white shooter in Philly, and it's like Kyle Korver. Like we just hope, like we hope and pray, like we go home and like get on our knees and just look at this like Julius Erving version of Jesus and like, could you please just send us another Kyle Korver? And that's what they think this guy's gonna be. But
that's great.
That's off to him. I hope he does kill it.
The blue jersey, Kyle Korver. That's what I'm picturing right now. That blue jersey was something special. Now, before
that's your favorite.
What's that?
That's your favorite, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's iconic to me. Those jerseys as a whole, when you look at the history of the Sixers, probably not their smoothest logo and all that, but that's kind of what we grew up with, right?
Yeah.
But before we dive into a couple of these questions, we teased on the last podcast a couple more questions, and then we have a pretty cool article to go over where it talks about the biggest legacy boosts with the 2020 title and some interesting names. But before we dive into these questions, you see this hat I have on here. Now, a couple episodes ago, I wore a Thunder hat, and people just destroyed me. What are you doing with that Thunder hat? It's just a hat, right? This, I forgot all about it because I'm moving, I'm getting all my stuff together, and I look at all my hats, I'm like, damn, I got to get rid of some of these. And at the bottom, I forgot I had this beautiful hat of LeBron James's face. That's all it is. It's just his face on the front of the hat. Would you rock this hat, D-Ray, or am I a total idiot?
With a capital H, hell no.
You wouldn't rock
no,
a
I
LeBron
wouldn't rock
hat
it.
like this?
No.
If it was Kobe's face, would you wear it?
We had a discussion at that point.
Okay.
But hell no, not the LeBron one. If anything, I'm more of a fan of the C on the side.
It is a fresh C, is it not?
Other side.
Oh,
yeah, that's a nice little add-on right there. But it's the fact that it's just his face. Ugh.
What's wrong with it? Oh, it's a total jerk-off hat. I completely understand. But, as I look here to my right, oh, look at that beautiful poster that's all in a frame with LeBron's face on it. Oh!
That should go. I dig it.
Of course it is. You kidding me?
I dig it.
Yeah, All right, let's talk Sixers. I can talk LeBron James all day. We have some questions left. And the first question, by the way, if you didn't listen to the last episode that we put up, we're breaking down the top 5 questions heading into Orlando for the Sixers, and this was written by MKB of CBS Sports. So we did the first couple questions last episode. We have a few left. Number 3, we'll start with this. What will the starting lineup look like? And this is interesting because they have 2 scenarios laid out in front of them. And these scenarios both kind of stink at the same time if you think about it. Scenario 1. Going with a rotation that doesn't work. With Ben at the 1, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid. A 5 that has struggled. Or the alternative is a starting 5 you never really seen together. Shake Milton, Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, and then Joel Embiid. So you have 2 scenarios. None are really good. One that kind of stinks and you know it. And then the other one is, it's so raw, you have no clue what it is. Which one do you really choose?
I got to be honest with you, bro. Neither.
Neither.
As you broke that down, I realized that the better person in that 5th starter spot might be Matisse Thybulle.
Love that.
Might be Matisse, because when I think about Shake Milton, it's like not that he's a slouch on defense, but he's much better on offense. You have a defensive minded team that plays great in transition. Maybe throwing a Matisse Thybulle in there, a guy who doesn't need the ball so much in the beginning of the game, a guy who you're really not expecting that much out of offensively, that kind of alleviates some pressure defensively. That gives Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid to kind of get into a rhythm offensively early on. And because he's such a role player, because he's such a backseat player, like Al Horford would be in that spot in the sense of, with this lineup, you're kind of deferring to Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons. That allows them to kind of breathe. But that defense to set the tone between him and Josh Richardson, what Ben Simmons can do, obviously, the worst defender in this lineup, and it's crazy to say that, might be Tobias Harris. And he's not bad at all. So to set the tone defensively with that lineup, and then you add in a Shake Milton, then you throw in an Al Horford later down the line, Matisse Thybulle might be the best for that fifth starter spot.
I'm not against that at all. I think that would be great. And obviously, he wouldn't play nearly the same amount of minutes as the other starters. He's just the guy who's going to start. But I wonder if we start talking about the slowing down of the game and the possession by possession, will that hurt the team offensively where Shake Milton can shoot the ball better from three? He's more versatile offensively, not as good defensively. So I get it. From the defensive side, you are going to be swarming teams, which is what this roster was all about when they put it together, so I understand. But if it becomes a half-court set game, does that hurt you too much to the point where that's where Shake would maybe add a little bit more for you?
It's going to become a half-court game. And that's, to me, when you insert an Al Horford. That's really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter who starts, but it's really about who finishes the game. And at the end of the day, Al Horford was brought in to finish games with this team, not necessarily start them. He's the guy that at the end of the game, I know he's going to show up because he did it to us last year and he did it to teams in the past a million times. Like, he is going to show up at the end of the game. But as far as that start of the game, that I have to come out the gates and set a tone as a coach and as a team, Matisse Thybulle, to me, his ability to get up and down the transition, early steal. Things like teams feed off of stuff like that. Stuff like that in the beginning of the game or at the beginning of the second half, like, it makes a world of difference on the team that's playing and obviously against your opponent, because it's just like, shit, we can't get anything. And then you throw in a Shake Milton and get a couple of shots. Then you throw in Al Horford when it slows down and turns into a half-court game. But as far as the start of the game goes, it's about pace setting. It's about setting the tone. You know what I mean? It's about showing up early. And I like that. I like that lineup to just come out the gates and it's like, this is what this shit's about to be.
Absolutely. No, I love the fact that you just brought up Matisse Thybulle. I think that would be excellent. I think Brett has a lot of options. He's going to have to figure a lot out when it comes to this rotation for the postseason. But Matisse Thybulle would not be a bad option at all. Now, let's bring up Josh Richardson. What is Josh Richardson? What's his role? Do you like when he's more of a point guard? Do you like when he's more of a shooting guard? I've said this before. If he was your straight-up sixth man, I think that would be phenomenal. I'm talking all season long. If you're telling me Josh Richardson is the sixth man of the Sixers, he's that Lou Will kind of guy, that would be great. Now, not as many buckets as him, but you understand what I'm saying, as if, he's your go-to sixth man. I would definitely like that for Josh Richardson. I don't think that's his role here. What do you see out of him, though?
It's weird because he does kind of have that tweener spot. Although he's traditionally looked at as a point guard, he's probably a little bit closer to skill set wise a small forward or a two guard, depending on the night, depending on the matchup. I like him more as a two guard than a point guard. I don't really like him. Not saying I don't like him setting stuff up, but I feel like he's a little bit more comfortable on that wing position. And his points are going up every year. So I would like to see how much you can get out of him. I think he averaged around like 14 this year, went up from like 12 last year. The year before that, it was like 10. I think he started off his career at like 6. So it's like he's figuring out his offensive game. I would like to see him continue to mature in that as opposed to let's pull you closer to the point guard position, which really ain't natural for him. Like if you watched him at Tennessee, like that ain't really his job. He was a defensive guy who was known to, get a bucket here or there. He was kind of known as a slasher, if anything. But to see his offensive game mature on that wing more, to me, is more valuable down the line and for the Sixers period.
I like Josh Richardson. I just feel like I don't know what to expect from him game by game because his defense by the perimeter, it's great, and he's definitely versatile when it comes to his defense. But there's some games where it's like, holy shit, dude, you just dropped 36. You scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. You took over. But then there's games where it's, what? Did Josh Richardson even play the game? And he went through some injury stuff, so I know that played a factor in what happened this season for him. I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I honestly just don't know what to expect out of him. I don't know where I like him more. I thought I would like him as the point guard. I think I like Shake Milton more as the point guard when Ben's not on the floor, when the ball's not in his hands. I don't know how he is as just a straight-up two-guard either. I just flat-out don't really know much about Josh Richardson at this point in terms of what does he provide every single game that I can rely on outside of defense.
Yeah. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I think you're right. I think he is kind of up and down with it. And sometimes, like you said, you have a night where it's like 36, 30 points, and he just seems to take over. He seems to have that Lou Will type of gene where it's just like, we need a bucket, he's gonna get it. And the other night, you're right. It's like, where is he? So where would you put him if he is that 6-man spot? What are you really getting out of him, and who's filling that seat for him in the starting lineup? Like, what type of player is filling it?
Yeah, I think for right now, when you look at the roster, it's he's in the starting rotation. I mean, with this team, with the way it is, he is the starting rotation. I'm just saying.
I'm saying like next season, if he's a 6-man.
If I could build this roster the way that I would, if I'm looking for a specific role out of the 6-man, I think that type of player could be your 6th man, but I don't see that being realistic with what the Sixers have now. I just think, in general, his game would be a good 6th man role as a whole.
Yeah. So. I do too. I'm just very interested to see like who will come into that spot, but I like him. I like him a lot just because he's a defensive minded player. Like they said, this team was built for the postseason and defense. I like his idea of his ability, shall I say, to set the tone. But you're right. The up and down kind of makes it confusion. And his tweeners, it's weird because like you have this thing where it's like everybody wants positionless basketball, but then you have these tweeners and then we give them shit because it's like, well, what are you? You know what I mean? But it's like, I don't really think they know what they are. So she's just a ball player. So you kind of take what the night gives you. But maybe that's why the Sixers are struggling the way that they do, because no one really knows, definitively what they're going to do if all else fails. But we're going to see. He's definitely going to be a starter, though. If he doesn't start, I'm going to be appalled.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. He's definitely going to
Broekhoff starts.
Yeah. What'd you say?
I said Broekhoff takes the spot.
Oh, yeah, Broekhoff starts. Hey, you never know, man. Those Brett Brown haters right now are listening going, you might be right, you two. Don't be joking. You might be right. No, I'm not trying to hate on Josh Richardson. I like him, and I think that he can totally be valuable to teams. And I mentioned him dropping 36 one night or dropping 32 another night. He's doing that for a reason, right? Because he totally can have those nights. I guess it's more about the consistency of doing it, and that's something that he's going to have to continue to work on. Now, we have another question here, and this is kind of simple to me. What kind of shape will Joel Embiid be in? And I say it's simple because I think the answer is he's not going to be in perfect shape. That's reality. We've seen it now year after year after year after year. No matter if he puts in 3,000% work or he doesn't and he eats Chick-fil-A sandwiches, it doesn't matter. It's just as if he's always in the same shape, which is not good enough shape. And that doesn't mean this team is screwed forever, but I just don't think he's going to be in phenomenal shape after this.
I hope we're wrong. And I say weird because I'm thinking the same type of thing. I'm serious. I think like you. It's like I need to see it at this point. I don't believe it. I think so much of him, with him, it comes down to diet. At the end of the day, it's like you can work all you want. But like you said, if you eat Chick-fil-A sandwiches and all that, and that just might be a maturity thing. But if his diet's not right, he's always going to be a certain amount of out of shape. No matter, he's saying what, 6 times a week at this point.
Yeah, 6 times a week. I didn't get all juiced up for that comment because I mentioned, you know what? He might be working out 6 times a week. What's LeBron doing? 12?
Yeah.
Well, what's Giannis doing? 8? I mean,
exactly.
I get that that's good that he's working out, but let's not just throw away that so are other people around the league.
Yeah. No, he definitely has a lot of ground to cover in that. But I don't know, man. This year has been very odd. So if there's any time I had to put my chips on him coming back differently, it's in 2020. Ooh. I am really hoping that we are wrong and he comes back cut up like a bag of dope and just completely annihilate.
Not good dope. I do good dope. I got a good hope.
Exactly. Got the J's at the door. Joel Embiid comes back just on some shit. And all of us are not, I'm not saying all of us who are rooting against it because we aren't, but all of us who are quite frankly just thinking realistically, if we've seen and heard this spiel before, I hope that we're wrong because it would gosh, it would be such a just taken off point for the Sixers if he could come back in phenomenal shape.
Joel Embiid with Ben Simmons' shape would be an unstoppable force. Mm-hmm. I just don't think you're ever going to get it, and I feel as if it's because the nature of being 7'2" and running the amount of miles that he runs. I believe there's a stat that tracks how many miles these guys run all season long, and he's always at the top of the list, which is funny and ironic because those people that scream he doesn't get in the paint enough, he's hanging up by the perimeter too much. Well, look around the league, and this dude's running up and down more than anybody else, so that means you got to be getting lower.
Exactly. And I will say this just to give him a bit of a pass. Part of that, his being out of shape is attested to injuries. That kills him. Like when he sits out those couple weeks or months or whatever, like that kills his stamina. That absolutely kills it. So just to give him a slight pass, but for when he is in there, it's something we got to see at this point. It's put up or shut up, like we said before.
Ooh, put up or shut up for Joel Embiid. Is it put up or shut up for Brett Brown? The last question in the article. Is Brett Brown coaching for his job? And I do think that reality is yes. I do think so. I think that this upper management and this front office is looking at Brett Brown this season going, look, you gotta do something here. Now, what does coaching for his job mean? If he goes 7 games in the second round again, and then you factor in the circumstances, do you give him another year? I think if he gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, he deserves another year because that shows me he has grown and developed each year as a coach to get them farther and farther every single time. The Brad Stevens year, it was an ugly playoff loss. The next year, I think he went toe-to-toe with Nick Nurse, and they fell with the quadruple bounce, 7 games. And then you're telling me he gets to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that is showing growth. But if he gets to the second round and loses in 7 again, does that mean he gets fired? I mean, there's a lot of question marks for Brett Brown.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's going to come down to not only the result, but how sharp it looks. At the end of the day, they're looking for somebody to coach this team, period. So let's say in these 8 regular season games, it looks like, they kind of figured it out. Or I think if they can look at these games and say that he didn't definitively do something to make sure that this team won, it's over. And that pains me so much to say. But I feel like they're looking at somebody, we need this team to be coached. So they go out there, the scheme that they go out on the floor with, their execution, they're sharp, they're fast with it. I think that plus the result, because let's be honest, let's not act like the results don't matter. Plus the results and how far they go is what's going to make sure Brett Brown stays in Philly or gets fired.
I just wonder how much they look at what has happened this year. Is Elton Brand going to sit there and go, dude, we just went through a pandemic, and you're telling me after 3-4 months off, I got to demand my coach to win a championship? Do they value what just happened in the time off, or do they look at it as almost an excuse? I don't know what they're going to do. There's so many ways to look at it. To think that the atmosphere they're playing in, going to Orlando, no fans, having 3-4 months off is the same as going through a regular NBA season. Well, that would be silly. So do they almost give him a free pass to an extent and go, guys, look what just happened. How am I supposed to say that Brett Brown did a horrendous job? Or, if he wins, there's going to be people out there saying, well, they only won because there was no atmosphere and the no fan. I mean, it's a lose-lose kind of, I think, for Brett in his position. But I just wonder.
For the haters.
Yeah, in his position, yes.
Yeah.
But I wonder how someone like Elton Brand views that when it comes to making this decision.
Hopefully realistically. I think the pandemic does play into it. But as far as the pressure and expecting him to go out and win, yeah, because that's what the other coaches are doing for theirs. That's what the other GMs are doing for their coaches. So it's not, I don't think that's unrealistic. Like I said, I really think Elton Brand knows basketball enough to know, number one, how does this look? You know what I mean? You had X amount of time to plan and figure things out. And obviously, if everybody comes back healthy, they're looking at, all right, how does this look on paper? Like, you look at what happened with the Golden State Warriors with Mark Jackson, pretty much right around the time that dynasty started to heat up. It was obvious that team could function without that coach. It makes it so much easier to get rid of him. Or it was obvious that they were missing one more thing that Mark Jackson couldn't get him. We need an NBA championship coach who understands this game at that level, just to get them that little bit of tweaking over. But it was so obvious that they didn't need Mark Jackson through and through to make that team was what it was. You look at a team like the Spurs, where it's like, if Greg Popovich isn't there and Tim Duncan's not there, you have a problem. You know what I mean? I think they're looking at that. They're kind of wanting that from Brett Brown. Maybe a little bit in between, but more towards if you aren't there, this team is not the same. We don't need somebody out there and it's like, oh, these guys are going to be fine without him, because then at that point why do we have him?
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at the Mark Jackson thing always cracks me up, because that's the first person people look towards when it comes to replacing Brett Brown, because he's the opposite. He's the hard guy. He's the guy who'll get in your face a little bit more, and they want that out of their coaches. Yet they always use him as the example on who needed to be fired in Golden State for Steve Kerr to come in, who is the version of Brett Brown where it's team guy, not so much as in your face, more of a, player's coach. So the whole Mark Jackson thing, always very comical to me. Very hypocritical when people look at that scenario.
You can't win. Can't win.
All right, you ready for this one? Because I think this conversation is going to be fun.
Hell yeah.
This is on Bleacher Report. Which NBA star would see the biggest legacy boost with the 2020 title? And the way that they approach this is, they didn't go with, let's say, LeBron James number one, because I feel like that would be your obvious answer. Like, oh, hey, yeah, LeBron, right? To me, I think that is the number one, because 3 compared to 4 chasing Michael Jordan, yes, that would be such a big boost in 2020 because now he's in play for a 5th. I think that is big. And if he gets 5, where does he fall on the list then? So, to me, it's number one, LeBron James, but they didn't go in that route with this, which makes it a little bit more interesting because you have some conversation when it comes to the higher in the list. But there was an honorable mention. And I think this is interesting because it relates to the 76ers. The honorable mention on this list is Jokic. And I find that to be fascinating because if he was to win the NBA title this year, biggest legacy boost, I think that's a little extreme. But what I do think it does that change the game of basketball? Will you now see teams start building around a center, a point center, if you will? Is that what you will see if Jokic wins? I don't think it's so much a biggest legacy boost for him personally. I think it just changes the game of basketball.
Changes the game. It changes the game in the same way when Steph and them won, or Steph started to heat up and he got to the MVP and people were like, small ball and a guy who can shoot from half court. That's what we want. Like, I honestly don't think you have a Trae Young as close. This is not like Steph Curry's out of the league or towards the end of his career, but I don't think you have a guy like Trae Young without a Steph Curry, quite frankly. Like, people are so high on getting that next version of that. I think you're absolutely right. I've already said this before. I feel like it's trending towards that point, that point center type of position. I feel like it's going to be him and Joel Embiid are going to be at the helm of basketball because, like I said, it went from the pendulum swing was everybody wanted small ball, and then it was the 3-and-D guys a couple of years ago when the Sixers drafted Mikal Bridges and then went and got Zaire Smith, and then the following year they give him a T-style. Well, everybody wants a 3-and-D guy who looks like he can develop into that. Robert Covington was huge for us because of that. And now I feel like it's kind of swinging back towards, the big man who can shoot from several positions, pass the ball somewhat, but dominate inside. I think that's huge. I think that's a great take by you saying that. It's not exactly the biggest legacy boost for him as is for the game of basketball and where it's going.
Right. If he won the championship and the Nuggets won the championship, I really don't think we look at Jokic as this insane, dominant man that's about to start taking over the NBA in terms of the legacy. But I do think it changes the way that teams start building their roster because it's a copycat league, or they might go, well, that was kind of a fluke, and they continue with the small ball.
Yeah,
you don't know that, right? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine 30 NBA teams with a Joel Embiid and a Jokic. And here's the difference, though. Maybe it's just that much harder to find. You don't find these guys. They're so rare. But with players who can shoot from 3 and be a little bit smaller and with handles, that's an easier find than the big man. And you can't tell me that there's going to be 30 big men that can dominate with their type of handles. You can find maybe a Dwight Howard in the Orlando Magic days, but guess what? That's not the same version of the big man as this. So maybe because of just how rare and how hard it is to find, maybe you wouldn't see it because they don't grow on trees.
They don't, but what would happen is you would have a lot of younger players. They start to model the game after that. So maybe it's not something that you see the effects of right away, but now that big man is going to UConn or that big man is going to Gonzaga. They're developing them they already have been, Lord knows, especially.
Why not Villanova?
Huh?
Why not Villanova?
I'm going to just call it what it is. That's Guard University.
Come on, coach.
Hey, listen, man. Listen.
If Mark Few can do it, Coach Jay Wright can do it.
I defend this shit out of Villanova, but I ain't about to sit here acting like that's some big man factory. That shit is Guard University.
Now, what if Jay Wright had a Joel Embiid in his back pocket? You're not telling me that he would turn that into a center university? No. Yeah, for that year. But generally speaking, it's the Guard. It's a 4-year program.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Generally speaking, now that's guard university. But you would start to see the reverberations of players being like, all right, if you, I mean, you're already kind of seeing it, but it would take on a different, like you said, it would just be such a boost. It would be, all right, listen, the whole idea of you just shooting hook shots, that's not enough no more. You got to be able to throw it out the post with both hands. You got to be able to operate from the elbow. And I think a league like that, with that position being that skill, that is scary. Because now nobody can hide. Now, like you can't, you have to be an all-around player at every position. That's truly positionless basketball.
I'm just smiling because we're talking basketball.
Yeah.
We're talking basketball. It's so much more fun talking basketball than breaking down what the league's going to do and how many games there's going to be. And we're talking basketball. We're talking practice, not the game. No, I don't want to talk practice. I want to talk games. All right, so for this list, that was their honorable mention. At number 6 was LeBron James, so that was the first person on the list in terms of going backwards. So number 6, LeBron James, and I think that makes a lot of sense for the way that they approached this. They thought it was too obvious of an answer to have him at number 1. So we'll just say, look, LeBron James, I think you would agree with me. If he gets a 4th, then it sparks that 5th conversation. If he gets that 5th, now we're talking, and time's running out. So if he does get that 4th this year, I think that's a huge legacy boost for him.
Absolutely. But let me ask you, because I said if he gets the 4th, to me, it's 1A, 1B, 1C. Like it's really like it depends on the day and who you're arguing with, but you can't keep him out of that argument anymore. Do you really think it's going to take the 5th to get him there?
I don't think anyone's ever going to say yes at this point. Even if he won 6, they'd say he had finals losses and Jordan was perfect. I feel because Jordan was the first one, he was the one that made the global star as big as it was. No one's really going to ever say that LeBron James is the greatest ever because of that and because of how he facilitates more than he's a killer, if you will, and things like that. I don't think anyone who was a Michael Jordan diehard will transform over to the LeBrons. There'll be people like me that think overall game, when it comes to more than just scoring and killer instinct, is LeBron the better overall basketball player? Yes, I think he is. In all of his game combined, yes. But I don't think the Michael Jordan diehards will ever allow that to actually be in play, even if he does win 6. Maybe if he wins 9. I don't think he's got that much time left, though, D-Ray.
Yeah
I'm going to cry my eyes out the day that he retires. Sucks.
He's, to me, even more so than Kobe was. Like, it almost is unimaginable for him not to be playing. Like, it just doesn't seem. I think because of how long he stayed in his, like, not prime.
He's still in that shit.
Exactly.
He led the league in assists last year at 35. He's not even a point guard.
Yeah. Like, that shit is kind of, like, for him, it's going to be, when he walks away, it's truly going to be like, this shit just doesn't look right. Because it wasn't like it was a decline. There wasn't any injury that held him out for, like, a season at a time or a long period of time. Like, he really just kind of stayed in 4th gear from the time he put on the Miami uniform till now. So, that's going to be interesting. But I think you're right. They're never going to get off of that. I've said it. I'll say it again publicly. If he gets the 4 rings, to me, it's like, all right, we need to reevaluate this conversation. If he gets the 5, I don't see how you can argue with it.
Let's go.
I don't see how.
Stop. I didn't even have my coffee yet, dude. This is my coffee. Keep
How
giving me
about
LeBron
this
stuff, baby.
This shit get you juiced up. It's
go.
just kind of weird, though, that they said that he was 6th. Me and you know the names coming up, but
yeah. Well,
I
the
think
reason I think I get the mindset of it. It was too simple of an answer. So for number 5, it's Kawhi Leonard. And they put Kawhi Leonard in here because he won with San Antonio, but he wasn't really the guy. Although defensively, we just talked about LeBron James. He did his thing on LeBron. But you look at that team and you think of the Hall of Famers around him more so than him himself. Then he won in Toronto. But then people speculate, hey, he got a lucky bounce because Golden State completely fell apart. They were extremely banged up. But look, he really did carry that Toronto team. Adding another championship after leaving that town, going to Los Angeles, even though he teamed up with Paul George and a great crew around him, going to another city and winning another title to give him 3 would add a big boost to his legacy, and I can't disagree with that at all.
I feel like it's a bigger boost than they're playing up. Somebody who goes to 3 different cities and wins a championship in each one, being the guy who wins the finals MVP and being the guy during the season, that's major. And obviously, like you said, the Spurs, he had those 3 Hall of Famers around him, but let's call it what it is. He did his damn thing. He showed up for that, and he was a kid back then. He did it in Toronto. If he does it again in LA, to me, there's so much more to be said about Kawhi Leonard's spot in the game of just being the ultimate Omega. Like, even more than Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, this guy is the ultimate Omega. Like, he is just by definition the best Omega this game has ever seen. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he should be higher up on the list because at this point, it's more about taking over. He would be winning the championship because of Kawhi Leonard again. Once you start transitioning into the guy, if you're telling me you're winning championships, and that would be 2 in a row, let's not throw that out the window as if it doesn't matter. 2 in a row, now you're starting to add that, you got to go through Kawhi Leonard to win the title, and that's important. So I do think that they're downplaying this, but I do get, once again, where they're going when it comes to the rest of the list. So at number 4, we have a Philadelphia 76er, Benjamin Simmons. That's right, Ben Simmons at number 4. And if he was to win a title in 2020, you look at the Prince a little differently. Now you're talking about a dude who is so controversial, can't shoot the basketball, he'll never work in this league. How can you be a point guard and not be able to shoot the ball? And he would have a title under his name, and at the age of 23, it would be that much more impactful because you know what's left and how much more there is to come when it comes to his age. So number 4, Ben Simmons, your reaction?
I like it. I like it. I don't see it, quite frankly. Him winning the title this year, I just don't. I mean,
now,
obviously, I'm pulling for it.
Because if they win the title, as I just said with Kawhi, he would be the guy. If the Sixers win the title, would it be because of Ben Simmons, or now is it, well, look, they had Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Josh Richardson? Is it more about he was just on a good team compared to him being the guy who's going to put up 32 points, 17 assists? You know what I mean, though? Obviously, that's ridiculous.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, it would take that type of quantum leap for him to be considered the guy. Don't get me wrong. Yes, him winning would help his legacy, but we've already said it. The Sixers are a team that's probably going to win by committee. It's not like a Kawhi Leonard where it's like it's head and shoulders over. There's no disputing. And if Joel Embiid quite frankly, they're not going to get there without Joel Embiid coming back on some shit. So it's like it's not really. In that article, it said they wanted to throw in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, but they can only choose one of them. I think he said I wanted to almost throw in Hinkie.
Yeah,
along with.
what
was the line he said?
I almost went with the duo of Simmons and Joel Embiid. Heck, I almost threw Sam Hinkie's name into the ring. A title, even a strange one, would further validate the process.
Exactly. Like, that would be huge, but like we said, it's not like Kawhi Leonard, and it's not like LeBron, where it's definitively head and shoulders over. Now, if he went out there and put up that monster stat line that you just said, yeah. And to me, it is no longer the Prince. He's just his own man, and this shit is about to get scary for the rest of the league, which we're hoping for. But
you're giving me So you would put LeBron and Kawhi over Ben Simmons for the legacy chalk.
Yeah.
I
just
think
because
I would too.
Yeah, just because the individual, you know what I mean? The individual.
Now, the next one's interesting, though.
Mm-hmm.
The Greek Freak.
Yeah.
How important is this title run for the Greek Freak? I would say this is huge. I feel like this is a good name on the list. We've been speaking about Greek Freak being the MVP season after season, but he doesn't have the hardware to really back it up. Adding a title now would definitely maybe start that flow into the right direction of, we talk about it now. You got to go through the Bucks. You got to go through Giannis. You got to go through him. Add a title to the list, and it changes his legacy, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And let's call it what it is. The Greek Freak, between his age, his natural ability, how fast he's progressed in this league, has a chance to be, if not the best, one of the best of all time. Like, we're seeing a once in a, I'm not even gonna say generation. He's an all timer as far as his skill set in the game goes already. If you add a title to that at this age, that's scary.
No doubt about it, man. That build is something else. Like how can you possibly be built like that? I want to be built like that, D-Ray.
Yeah, at like 7, whatever he is. No.
Those Euro steps, he takes one step. I mean, I don't even understand. Somehow he Euro steps and it's one step. I don't even know that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but that's how he does it. I mean, his strides are so damn long.
He like Euro steps from like the elbow to the block. Like that shit is ridiculous.
So smooth though.
And then dunks with either hand. Yeah, no, that would be huge. You add a title in that, that's different.
Now, who has the smoothest Euro? Is it Joel Embiid's or is it Giannis?
I think Joel's. Something
the
about
only reason
Joel's.
why I think it looks a little smoother for him is because it's coming from the center position. So it's just so much more rare, It's just so smooth at 7'2", and he jams it on it. He's got a little afro. He gives you one of these.
No. I think it's because it's like the like Giannis. He Euro steps and the strides are so big, it almost doesn't look like a Euro step, but like Joel Euro steps like a guard. Like it's the complete movement of the body. Like Giannis Euro steps and it's just like stride to stride. Like what's name? It's the complete shift of the body. That's why he does it when he's going back to the bench. It's the shift of the body, and then sometimes he'll lay it up. Giannis is Euro stepping and bang this shit, which almost kind of negates how cool it looks because it's just like, get the fuck out! Like what the hell is this? But when Joel Embiid does it and then finger rolls at the end at 7'2", it's just like.
I remember when Joel Embiid was talking to the media about how he watches all of these greats and their guards with shooting, and everyone's like, oh my God, Joel, why are you watching these guys? And well, that's why. Look at what he does. Look at his skill set. That's why he's watching those guys. Obviously, he watches, Olajuwon and watches the footwork, but he was talking about watching some of these players in today's game, Kevin Durant, all this, and oh, come on, Joel, get on the low block. Those get off my lawn people. Come on, grow up. Grow up. All right, number 2 on the list. Chris Paul. And I think this is very valid. So he has 10 All-Star appearances, 9 All-Defensive selections, 8 All-NBA teams, and 4 top 5 MVP finishes. Chris Paul has been a legend at that position. Your traditional point guard, and even more so than just that. He's been fantastic, and he's been a veteran, and he's been so damn good in this league, but does not have the Larry O'Brien to support it. I think you add one title to Chris Paul's whole entire career, and it changes the way he is viewed.
It changes everything. I feel like without it, he's kind of in that Charles Barkley conversation of a guy who was right there, that Patrick Ewing conversation, that guy who was a great Hall of Famer without a doubt. But, they say what they say back in the day, without a ring, it don't mean a thing. You know what I mean? Like that really, I think Chris Paul, if anybody, has the most just because of how long his career has been. And it's no secret that it's winding down. Like him to get one at this point, it changes it.
Oh, no doubt about it. With the way that they had the mindset clocking into this specific article, Chris Paul would make the most sense at number 1. Yeah. I think Chris Paul would be the most sense at number 1 with the way that they approach this. But at number 1, they had James Harden. And I just don't understand how they went with him. They kind of dive into his numbers and how great he is when it comes to his offense and how elite that really is. And I get that, but I'm sorry. You're telling me Chris Paul or James Harden wins the NBA title? One person's legacy is way more impacted than the other one, and the answer is Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul, the Greek freak, I would have went a different way with this, but you can't not have LeBron at the top. I get that that's boring, but yes, this does impact LeBron's legacy differently. LeBron, Kawhi, Chris Paul, and the Greek freak have to be in over James Harden. I mean, I don't get the James Harden at number 1 at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I can't even find the approach to it. I don't get it. Why? Because he's this guy who gets knocked for his defense, so you're saying, well, here's a guard who can score a bunch of points, and if he can do it, then the league is going to change. I mean, that's what the league is right now, right? It's small guards who can just shoot the basketball and shoot the lights out. So I don't get how that no one's going to look at James Harden any differently. They already look at him as this guy who can score the basketball at will. I just don't see James Harden at 1 at all.
I don't see them winning the title. I don't like Kobe has said it before he had passed. He was like, they're not going to win with that style of play. And I've been vocal about it before. I don't think Mike D'Antoni can coach anybody to, with him making the amount of decisions he makes, I don't think that offensive minded of a coach can coach somebody to a championship game, because you can't win with that. You can't win everything with that. You can win some regular season games, but you're not going to win a title just with a guy who plays ISO ball through and through. I will say this, like your Joel Embiid argument of, him making it to a certain point and changing the game, or Jokic, same type of player. I feel like that really changes what we consider a basketball title to look like if James Harden and the Houston Rockets go out there and win.
Well, this is an interesting sentence here. We'll close on this. In the James Harden article, I guess but they give a little description on why they chose James Harden. If Simmons is one of the most polarizing players in the sport, Harden's picture could be found beside the word in Webster's dictionary. So is he comparing Harden to Ben Simmons when it comes to being a polarizing player? Because I don't see that one bit. Are you kidding me? Ben Simmons at 6'10" at the point guard position who can't shoot a basketball is nowhere even close to the same as polarizing as James Harden and his offense. Yeah. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, it's kind of hard for me to agree with this guy now.
Yeah,
that shit that negated so much.
I know, but that creates fun conversation. Moral of the story, they did this completely wrong. So, with that being said, D-Ray, another episode in the books.
Mm-hmm.
We talked basketball the entire time. That means hoops is trending in the right direction.
Exactly.
And before you know it, they'll be in Orlando, they'll be in the bubble, and hopefully we get to see some hoops. Some legitimate hoops being played. Hopefully we can see some of this training camp. Maybe they do a live special on NBC Sports Philadelphia of Brett Brown with the whistle. Again! Just running their asses. So everyone can see he's such a hard ass and saves his job.
Yeah, because that'll do it.
Damn right.
Ugh.
You know that. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Processed, and we will see you next time.